$1.87. That was all. And 60 cents of it was in pennies. Pennies saved 1 and 2 at a time by bulldozing the grocer and the vegetable man and the butcher until one's cheeks burned. 3 times Della counted it. $1.87. And the next day would be Christmas. There was clearly nothing to do but flop down on the shabby little couch and howl. So Della did it. Oh!
While the mistress of the house is gradually subsiding from sobs to sniffles, take a look at the home. A furnished flat at $8 per week. In the vestibule below was a letterbox into which no letter would go, and an electric bell from which no mortal finger could coax a ring, and also a card bearing the name Mr. James Dillingham Young. The Dillingham had been flung to the breeze during a former period of prosperity when its possessor was being paid $30 per week. Now, when the income was shrunk to $20, the letters of Dillingham looked blurred, as though they were thinking seriously of contracting to a modest and unassuming D. But whenever Mr. James Dillingham Young came home and reached his flat above, he was called Jim, and greatly hugged by Mrs. James Dillingham Young, already introduced to you as Della, which is all very good.
Della finished her cry and attended to her cheeks with a powder rag. She stood by the window and looked out dully at a gray cat walking a gray fence in a gray backyard. Tomorrow would be Christmas Day, and she had only $1.87 with which to buy Jim a present. She had been saving every penny she could for months, with this result. $20 a week doesn't go far. Expenses had been greater than she had calculated. They always are. Only $1.87 to buy a present for Jim. Her Jim. Many a happy hour she had spent planning for something nice for him, something fine and rare and sterling, something just a little bit near to being worthy of the honor of being owned by Jim. Suddenly, she whirled from the window and stood before the looking-glass. Her eyes were shining brilliantly, but her face had lost its color within 20 seconds. Rapidly, she pulled down her hair and let it fall to its full length.
Now, there were 2 possessions of the James Dillingham Youngs in which they both took a mighty pride. One was Jim's gold watch that had been his father's and his grandfather's. The other was Della's hair.
Had the Queen of Sheba lived in the flat across the air shaft, Della would have let her hair hang out the window someday to dry, just to depreciate Her Majesty's jewels and gifts.
Had King Solomon been the janitor, with all his treasures piled up in the basement, Jim would have pulled out his watch every time he passed, just to see him pluck his beard from envy.
So now Della's beautiful hair fell about her, rippling and shining like a cascade of brown waters. It reached below her knee and made itself almost a garment for her. And then she did it up again, nervously and quickly. Once she faltered for a minute and stood still while a tear or two splashed on the worn red carpet. On went her old brown jacket. On went her old brown hat. With a whirl of skirts and with the brilliant sparkle still in her eyes, she fluttered out the door and down the stairs to the street. Where she stopped, the sign read,
Madam Sophroni, hair goods of all kinds.
One flight up, Della ran and collected herself, panting.
Madame, large, 2 white, chili.
Hardly looked the Sophroni. Will you buy my hair?
I buy hair. Take off your hat and let's have a look at the sight of it.
Down rippled the brown cascade.
$20.
Give it to me quick.
Oh, and the next 2 hours tripped by on rosy wings. Forget the hashed metaphor. She was ransacking the stores for Jim's present.
She found it at last. It surely had been made for Jim and no one else. There was no other like it in any of the stores, and she had turned them all inside out. It was a platinum watch chain, simple and chaste in design, properly proclaiming its value by substance alone and not by meretricious ornamentation, as all good things should do. It was even worthy of the watch. As soon as she saw it, she knew it must be Jim's. It was like him.
Quietness and value. The description applied to both.
$21 they took from her for it, and she hurried home with the 87 cents. With that chain on his watch, Jim might be properly anxious about the time in any company.
Grand as the watch was, he sometimes looked at it on the sly, on account of the old leather strap that he used in place of a chain.
When Della reached home, her intoxication gave way to a little prudence and reason. She got out her curling iron and lighted the gas, and went to work repairing the ravages made by generosity added to love.
Which is always a tremendous task, dear friends, a mammoth task. Within 40 minutes, her head was covered with tiny, close-lying curls that made her look wonderfully like a truant schoolboy.
She looked at her reflection in the mirror, long, carefully, and critically. Oh, if Jim doesn't kill me before he takes a second look at me, he'll say I look like a Coney Island chorus girl. But what could I do? Oh, what could I do with $1.87?
At 7 o'clock, the coffee was made and the frying pan was on the back of the stove, ready to cook the chops.
Jim was never late. Della doubled the watch chain in her hand and sat on the corner of the table by the door that he always entered. Then she heard his step down on the first flight, and she turned white for just a moment. She had a habit of saying little silent prayers about the simplest everyday things, and now she whispered, "Please, God, make him think I'm still pretty."
The door opened and Jim stepped in. He was thin and very serious.
Poor fellow, he was only 22, and to be burdened with a family. He needed a new overcoat, and he was without gloves.
Jim stepped inside the door, as immovable as a setter at the scent of quail. His eyes were fixed on Della, and there was an expression in them that she could not read.
And it terrified her.
It was not anger, nor surprise, nor disapproval, nor horror, nor any of the sentiments that she had been prepared for. He simply stared at her fixedly, with that peculiar expression on his face.
Jim, darling, don't look at me that way. I had my hair cut off and sold it because I couldn't have lived through Christmas without giving you a present. It'll grow out again. You won't mind, will you? I just had to do it. My hair grows awfully fast. Say Merry Christmas, Jim, and let's be happy. You don't know what what a beautiful, nice gift I've got for you.
You've cut off your hair.
Cut it off and sold it. Don't you like me just as well, anyhow? I'm me without my hair, aren't I?
Jim looked about the room curiously. You say your hair is gone?
You needn't look for it. It's sold, I tell you, sold and gone too. It's Christmas Eve. Be good to me, for it went for you. Maybe the hairs on my head were numbered, but nobody could ever count my love for you. Shall I put the chops on, Jim?
Out of his trance, Jim seemed quickly to wake. He enfolded his Della. For 10 seconds, let us regard with discreet scrutiny some inconsequential object in the other direction. Jim drew a package from his overcoat pocket and laid it upon the table. Don't make any mistake about me, Dell. I don't think there's anything in the way of a haircut that could make me love my girl any less. But if you'll unwrap that package, you may see why you had me going a while at first.
White fingers and nimble tore at the string and paper, and then an ecstatic scream of joy, and then, alas, a quick change to hysterical tears and wails.
For there lay the combs, the set of combs, side and back.
That Della had worshipped for long in a Broadway window. Oh, beautiful combs, pure tortoise shell with jeweled rims.
Just the shade to wear in the beautiful, vanished hair.
They were expensive combs, she knew, and her heart had simply craved and yearned over them without the least hope of possession. And now they were hers. but the tresses that should have adorned the coveted adornments were gone. But she hugged them to her bosom, and at length she was able to look up through dim eyes and smile and say, "My hair grows so fast, Jim."
And then Della leapt up like a little cinched cat and cried,
Oh, Jim had not yet seen his beautiful present. She held it out to him upon her open palm.
The dull, precious metal seemed to flash with the reflection of her bright and ardent spirit.
"Isn't it a dandy, Jim? I hunted all over town to find it. You'll have to look at the time 100 times a day now. Give me your watch. I want to see how it looks on it."
Instead of obeying, Jim tumbled down on the couch and put his hands under the back of his head and smiled. "Dell, let's put our Christmas presents away and keep them for a while. They're too nice to use just at present. I sold the watch to get money to buy your combs. And now, suppose you put the tops on."
The Magi, as you know, were wise men
Wonderfully wise men.
that brought gifts to the babe in the manger.
They invented the art of giving Christmas presents.
Being wise, their gifts were no doubt wise ones, possibly bearing the privilege of exchange in case of duplication.
And here we have lamely related to you the uneventful chronicle of two foolish children in a flat who most unwisely sacrificed for each other the greatest treasures of their house.
But in a last word to the wise of these days, let it be said that of all those who give gifts, these two were the wisest.
Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are the wisest.
Everywhere they are the wisest.
They are the Magi.
I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning. What was on those ships, oh 3, on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day? A little boy and a lady on Christmas Day in the morning. Oh, la la. Day. Yes, they sailed for Bethlehem on Christmas Day in the morning. Let us all rejoice and sing on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. And all the bells on earth will ring on Christmas Day in the morning. On Christmas Day in the morning, on Christmas Day in the morning. I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day, on Christmas Day. I saw 3 ships come sailing in on Christmas Day in the morning.
Again, I reply to the triple winds running chromatic fifths of derision outside my window. Play louder! You will not succeed. I am bound more to my sentences the more you batter at me to follow you. And the wind, as before, fingers perfectly its derisive music!
I heard a bird sing in the dark of December, a magical thing and sweet to remember. We are nearer to spring than we were in September. I heard a bird sing in the dark of December.
Now when Jesus was born in Benin of Nigeria, in the days of English rule, behold, there came wise men from the east to London, saying, Where is he that is born King of the blacks? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. When the Prime Minister had heard these things, he was troubled, and all England with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priestess and scholars of the land together, he demanded of them where this new Christ should be born. And they said unto him, In Benin of Nigeria, for thus it was written by the prophet, And thou, Benin, in the land of Nigeria, art not the least among the princes of Africa, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my Negro people. Then the Prime Minister, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Benin and said, Go and search diligently for the young child, and when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also. When they had heard the premier, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were coming to the house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened the treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and medicine and perfume. And being warned by God in a dream that they should not return to England, they departed into their own country another way. Save one, and he was black. And his own country was the country where he was. So the black wise men lingered by the cradle and the newborn babe. The perfume of his gift rose and filled the house until through it and afar came the dim form of years and multitudes. And the child, seeing the multitudes, opened his mouth and taught them, saying,
Blessed are poor folks, for they shall go to heaven.
Blessed are sad folks, for someone will bring them joy.
Blessed are they that submit to hurts, for sometime they shall own the world.
Blessed are they that truly want to do right, for they shall get their wish.
Blessed are those who do not seek revenge, for vengeance will not seek them.
Blessed are the pure, for they shall see God.
Blessed are those who will not fight, for they are God's children.
Blessed are those whom people like to injure, for they shall sometime be happy.
Blessed are you black folk, when men make fun of you and mob you and lie about you. Never mind and be glad, for your day will surely come. Always, the world has ridiculed its better souls.
God grant on this Christmas that our nation and all others plant themselves on this platform. Equal justice and equal opportunity for all races.